Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And today I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Hassan Qureshi, who is a host and cricket analyst at Grassroots Cricket and the former digital media manager at Multan Sultans. And today we'll be discussing Australia's exhilarating win in the semi-final by 5 wickets over Pakistan. We'll be discussing that game in detail on this volume of
CRIQAZI Diaries.
Have a look at that. Miles up. Oh, it's nearly taken someone out in the stands. That was a flat six right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members, and it went like a rocket. Well, wicket 24.
Welcome to the show, Hassan Bhai. First of all, thank you so much for taking out the time. I'm a big fan of your work, and the way you talk about cricket, it's honestly inspirational, and I'm really, really honored to have you on my show.
Thank you so much, bro. I really enjoy watching your shows. I watch them. I'm so happy that young people like yourself are representing cricket, talking about Pakistan cricket. I think it's so important that you guys, your voices are heard because you guys are the future. Even on a tough day like today, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those humbling words. And I guess without further ado, let's get into the material. Okay, Hassan Bhai, so it's been a very rough couple of months for Pakistan cricket. First, of course, England and New Zealand pulling out of the home series last minute, which was a big blow to Pakistan cricket. Wasim Khan resigning as CEO, Ramiz Raja ushered in as the new PCB chairman, a complete coaching staff upheaval with Misbah and Waqar resigning and the new coaching staff coming in. And then this was a time which was extremely adverse in Pakistan cricket. Obviously, there was precedent for this and the Tiger was very much cornered. And what about that response? The way these boys have responded on the field and off the field so maturely, so composed, the way they've been ambassadors for Pakistan cricket. Honestly, look, there's no doubt about the fact that Hassan Ali's drop catch cost us the game today. And it's completely fine to be critical of the team, but I don't think it's fair at all to berate these players. They should be celebrated. They are national heroes. The way they've represented Pakistan, the way they've given us so much happiness over the past 3 weeks, I think that they should be given a hero's welcome. What's your take?
I couldn't agree more with you, Behram. I think they're national heroes. Like you said, they need to be celebrated. People are talking about Pakistan cricket, not just in Pakistan, but outside Pakistan. And they're talking about us in glowing terms. Look, yes, today hurts. Nobody's hurt more than Hassan Ali. All right. This is a guy who 4 years ago, you were not going to win the trophy without him. By all means, be critical of his performance, like you said. This is a human being. This is a Pakistani. This is a guy who wears the shirt with pride. He's had a bad day. We can even point out to the fact that we weren't able to maybe take Maxwell on the way other teams did. Maybe we were 20, 30 runs short. It doesn't matter. You lost the game. It's over. But that does not mean that you berate your players as people. Berate them as players. Talk about the fact that, yeah, no ball, you bowled a no ball. Maybe the discipline was lacking a bit. Doesn't matter. These boys have won hearts. And like you said, it's been a very tough time for Pakistan cricket. It's been a very tough time for Pakistan. For those of us in Pakistan, we know what the country is going through. These guys have lit up our days. They've lit up our nights. I don't think there's been a more popular or well-loved Pakistani team in recent times. And I definitely don't think there's been one that has been so well-loved and respected around the world. Scotland, Namibia, New Zealand, India, Pakistan, everybody's talking about us. Other players are talking about us. I mean, look, he didn't play a single game. And yet one of the guys who walks away with his reputation hugely enhanced is Shahnawaz Dahani, simply because he's always got that amazing smile on his face. And he's so happy to be there. And this is a boy from interior Sindh. And from some time ago, people would never think of interior Sindh as a place where people even played cricket. There's so much positivity they've given us. Rizwan, as was pointed out in the post-match conference, was in ICU with a chest infection. And going out there, the lion heart that he is, and people are like, why is he struggling? Why is he being fanatic like this? They're human beings. They're going to have ups and downs. Today was a down for us. Also, Behram, let's be honest, Australia played very well. Let's give them credit. They played very well. They're a very good side. And of course, I want New Zealand to thrash them, so I feel better. You hit the nail on the head, my friend. We have to celebrate these boys, be grateful for them, no matter what happened. And what happened today hurts, but please don't forget all the joy they brought to us. Going back to that game against India, till maybe the last 2 or 3 overs of this game, they've given this entire country and the diaspora so much happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. And regardless of the result, like I said earlier, they should be celebrated and they should be given a hero's welcome. And no one drops catches on purpose anyway. And imagine what Hassan Ali is going through exactly, right? If we feel this way, he must be completely down right now. But let's move on. You mentioned Mohammad Rizwan. Now, this guy scored 67 of 52. First ever cricketer to get 1,000 runs in T20 international cricket in a calendar year. He broke Chris Gale's record of most runs in T20 cricket in a year. It's really been the year of Rizwan. He was hospitalized. He came out, took a blow to the face for crying out loud, and just the way he carried himself. Absolute warrior. What do you have to say about this champion?
Tell me a year ago if you and I would be having this conversation. A year ago, people were saying Rizwan can't even get into the Karachi Kings side. Rizwan can't hit sixes. Look at this guy. Every single time you talk to Rizu Bhai, who also won Multan Sultans, represent the PSL as the most amazing captain and opener, what does he say? Any shortcuts? Hard work. What's the secret to your success? Hard work. Why have you achieved what you've achieved? Hard work. Hardworking, humble, an absolute lion heart. I don't think we can praise him enough. Honestly, I've seen some wonderful people tweeting that this guy deserves a pride of performance. Absolutely. Give him all the medals, because I don't think your team is where it is. Both Multan Sultans, both Pakistan, without Rizwan, with his calm, collected, easy way. And Behram, Chris Gale's record, you're telling me Chris Gale's record has been broken by a guy who a year ago wasn't even in your T20 plans and wasn't even being used by the franchise that he was contracted to? It's phenomenal. It's a feel-good story for the ages, and it's an example to every young Pakistani cricketer. Learn from Rizwan. Never complained, never whined, went on all the tours, kept working, got his opportunity and made the most of it. And he continues to make the most of it. This guy is a role model. And I couldn't be happier that we have such an amazing role model playing for us. Allah keep him in his protection. And I hope we see him play on and on and on and on for a very long time. Because one thing with Rizwan, he's never going to stop working hard. And when you never stop working hard, you're always going to have an opportunity to do as well as he did after spending 2 nights in the ICU. Believe you or me, if any of us was there, I don't think playing Mitchell Starc or those guys, or Josh Hazelwood, who had an IPL in the UAE to remember, and Rizu's hitting him for sixes. A phenomenal achievement, phenomenal player, and most importantly, a phenomenal person.
Yeah, his humility really stands out as a dominant trait, and also he's so hardworking. In fact, if I compare his rise in international cricket to anyone, it's probably Steve Smith-esque. I can't think of any other person. Another guy who really performed today and was amazing, and Matthew Hayden actually backed him to perform, is Fakhar Zaman. Big match player, backed up that Champions Trophy final performance with this unbeaten 55 of 32. Absolutely bludgeoned Mitchell Starc, and the way he was hitting the ball, honestly, like, I was blown to pieces, and it was absolutely attractive to watch. That's the sort of cricket you want to watch. And he had received so much criticism. Why is Fakhar in the team? He should be dropped for Heather Ali, yada, yada, yada. But he came up trumps and he validated the faith that was put in him. What would you have to say about his performance tonight?
It was brilliant. And the thing is, when everybody around us was panicking that, look, he's on 26 of 22 balls, the next 10 balls, he doubled his score. And I thought one thing Sunil Gavaskar pointed out was very important when he said that he's backing himself. He doesn't care if he's playing against the large boundary or the shorter boundary. He's backing himself to play his game. He's not going inside out over cover because he doesn't trust that shot. He's going on the leg side. And like you said, taking on Mitchell Starc, that near umpire killer that went right over the umpire's head. And I kind of wish it had hit the umpire now when I look at some later decisions. And also those sixes going into the stands. It was brilliant. And he got criticism. I'm all right with criticism. Believe me, there's nobody over the years who's criticized his team and his players as much as I have, but we have to put it into context. He has a role to play within the team. This is a guy who's opened all his life. Another person who comes from a humble background, a guy who had to go to the Navy. He said just so he had the opportunity to play cricket and to do as well as he's done. We have to celebrate these guys, Bahram. We can criticize them for making mistakes, but did he not do what was asked of him today? I thought he did it. People can say we should have had 20, 30 runs. On another day, anything could have happened. But again, we did our best. Australia were better than us. I hope we learn from this. And I think Rizwan, I think Babar, Fakhar, Shadab, all of these guys, they take away so much from this. And I think we'll be better prepared. 9 of our guys, with the exception of Hafiz and Malik, senior pros, were playing their first knockout game in an ICC tournament. It's a learning curve. We'll come back better for it.
Absolutely. And it's just Fakhar is just a champion, the way he conducts himself, the way he responds to criticism. He's done it time and again, and he's proven on the biggest stage he is there, and he's there to fight it out for Pakistan. And I was really, really happy to see him perform. Tough luck that he couldn't take Pakistan home, but he's also a fantastic boundary rider. You cannot forget that. Anyway, let's move on to Shadab Khan, another guy who's copped a lot of criticism for the last 2 years. I've consistently heard people saying, get Shadab out of the team. He's not a proper leg spinner. He doesn't add any value to the team. But really, if you ask me, I've always been a Shadab Khan fan. And yes, he's been injured. He had hepatitis. He hasn't been at his best since the 2019 Cricket World Cup. But today, he brought out his absolute best. Got 4 massive wickets on a day when Australia were literally running away with the game. 2 of the batsmen they tried to hit out against the spin, which was Mitchell Marsh and Steve Smith, removed them. And then the big, massive, huge wickets of David Warner and Glenn Maxwell. Pakistan got Australia at 96 for 5. At that time, I thought the game was dead and buried. Of course, it didn't turn out to be that way, but what would you like to say about Shadab's performance, and especially given that he's the vice captain of the team under a lot of pressure, and finally, after a long time, he's delivered on the biggest stage?
He delivered against India. He did it then. And like you said, one of the most scrutinized players, constantly criticized. But like you look at Shadab, like you look at Asif, when you look at these guys from Islamabad United, those guys back them, Rehan, Hassan Chima, they back these guys, they believe in them, and they carry that confidence. And Shadab today was exceptional. The Aussies are good players of spin. The guys that you mentioned that he got out, all of them played in the IPL. They know these conditions. They're not mugs. He didn't pick up 4 wickets against Scotland or Namibia, and we can say they don't face this level of leg spin. He's a gun fielder. We didn't even get to see the best of him as a batsman and the wonders he's been doing for Islamabad United. And yes, he went through a prolonged period of bad form, got a lot of criticism from people, believed in himself, had the people in Islamabad United like Rehan and Hassan who believed in him and supported him. And just like Asif Ali, who so many people had written off before this tournament even started, I saw some people slagging Asif today and I couldn't believe it. The guy is the reason you went 5 games in a row. You won all the games, but what's he supposed to do with 7 balls remaining? Play out 3 balls so you can abuse him? Shadab did his bit. The wickets were exceptional. His control was exceptional. It just was like the Shadab of old. And yes, it didn't work out, but at 96 for 5, he gave you hope. Now, he can only bowl 4 overs. If he could have bowled 10 overs, it would have been a different story. So these are the stories to celebrate, Behram. These are the things to be happy about. Shadab, Fakhar, Riz, Babar. If you're going to only look at the negatives in Pakistan cricket, then you're going to end up looking like me very soon with all my hair gone white or having fallen off my head, because that's what supporting this team for 30 years does to you. But let's celebrate these guys. It's a comeback. And look, if Shadab is coming into this, going into future matches with more confidence, it can only be good for Pakistan, not only to have a vice captain, but a genuine all-rounder at top of his form. So I hope it continues and we have a template for the future, and a fit and firing Shadab, nothing like it.
Absolutely. I concur word for word. And also that dismissal of David Warner, at that point, it almost felt like divine intervention, honestly, because he didn't touch it and he walked himself. He was so convinced. Another guy, of course, who performed in this game, albeit he did go for 3 consecutive sixes at the end. We've got to talk about Shaheen Afridi. He's the one who set the tone for Pakistan in this tournament, got those 2 wickets up front, Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul. Those wickets will be etched in our memories for the rest of our lives. There's no doubt about it. And today, his first over was absolutely unplayable. The way he got Aaron Finch, very similar to that KL Rahul delivery, only this time it hit the pad. And then also he almost had Mitchell Marsh. Had the umpire given that out, it would have stayed out, and that would have really changed the course of the game. I can excuse Shaheen at 21 years of age to give away those 3 sixes at the end, but I think he is one for the future. And I think finally Pakistan have an all-format fast bowler who I am very confidently saying will get at least 300 test wickets.
Inshallah, he absolutely will. And finally, Behram, for those of us, like you said, for an entire generation of Pakistanis, the dismissals of Alan Lamb and Chris Lewis will always be etched in our memories. That's what the KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma dismissals will be. And he is 21. People forget that because, he looks older. He's been spearheading your attack for so long. He's the best bowler in the world. I don't care what anybody has to say. When you give that kind of start, and I agree with you, I'm sorry, I think umpire's call is a very strange rule because it's either hitting the stumps or it's not hitting the stump. Get Marsh early. That's an extra 26 runs you have. Marsh is a very important player. He did well for them also. Shaheen set the tone. Yeah, look, what Wade did to him at the end after the catch is dropped, the pressure is high. You can't take that away from Wade. It was brilliant from him also. But I think, like you said, Shaheen is going to stand out from this tournament and he has become Pakistan's main player. And my only worry is he's playing all three formats. He's your best bowler in all three formats. Wrap him up in cotton wool and, feed him khichdi all day long and press his feet, because this guy is the closest thing. We talked about Amir. Amir was great, had his moments. Not since Wasim Bhai, not since the great Wasim Akram have we had a left-arm pacer get our hearts racing like this. We have to look after this guy. He's a treasure, absolute treasure. And I tell you what, every team in the world right now would exchange any player of theirs to have Shaheen Afridi on their team. And that's saying a lot. Any team would want him in their ranks. He's that brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, the prodigious late swing, and then also he's just ran an absolute clinic this whole T20 World Cup. It's been a fast bowling exhibition, and he's been compared to Mitchell Starc, of course, as well. And I just wish Shaheen the very best. It gets me really excited when I think of the prospect of how good he can be in the future. I'd like to just talk about one more Pakistan player on the day. Of course, today he didn't get a very big score. 39 of 34 deliveries set a platform for Pakistan. But Babar Azam, even though he did not get a single man of the match award in this tournament, highest run scorer, 303 runs in 6 innings, and it's almost a given, right? Death, taxes, and Babar Azam scoring runs. He's just been that good. And even though I was critical of his captaincy today, Hassan Bhai, of course, like I said earlier, it's okay to be critical and you just don't have to berate the players. But I felt like he could have opened with Mohammad Hafiz versus David Warner. That might have gotten you an early wicket. And then later on, when Imad Wasim bowled that really economical over in the latter half of the innings, maybe he could have bowled him out and one less over for Hassan. And then also one tactical error I felt was that when they sent in Malik, when the spinners were done, I think that was a wrong call with respect to matchups. Maybe Hafiz or Hassan Ali could have gone in there. But this is just me being nitpicky, honestly, because Babar Azam has done a phenomenal job as captain in this tournament. We've seen him grow and mature as a leader. He's composed. He's a calming influence on the team. I'm extremely impressed. I think he's growing into a wonderful cricketing brain. And as a batsman, there's never any doubt. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And jitni bhi tareef ki jaye kam hai.
Absolutely. And I think all your criticisms are fair. I don't think you've said a single unfair thing. He's going to learn from this. It's important that he learns from this, because there's no captain that's never going to make a mistake. Maybe if you tried those things, when I think about it now and I look at everything you've pointed out, I think, yeah, that's a valid point. Maybe if we'd gone with Imad, maybe sending Asif in earlier, maybe even at the time when Fakhar, was there, maybe not sending Shoaib Bhai, maybe sending Asif that little bit earlier, trying something different on another day could have all worked out. He's impressed us with his batting. He's impressed us with his calmness. I've been so happy seeing him in that dressing room, leading this team, which has senior players, junior players, being humble. It's very easy when you're as good as Babar Azam is as a player to get carried away, to start being arrogant, to believe in your own hype. Just watching his dad. And this is not someone who's shying away from who he is or where he's from. He seems very comfortable being who he is, and he's making that legacy for himself. And I couldn't agree with you more. Not a single man of the match, but every single game, he was important for you. As your captain, as one of your main players, I think he's grown into the role. This will hurt him, but he'll learn from this. And I think he's going to, inshallah, going forward for the next World Cup or for future series, he's going to go into it as a better leader, as a better captain. Like you said, he already as a player, there's no doubt. When Babar is on form, I think even the opponents look at him and go, wow, this is amazing. I think he's going to learn from this. And the way he has conducted himself and the way his team have conducted themselves as ambassadors for Pakistan, I don't think we've had such great ambassadors in a very long time.
Definitely. And it's a massive learning curve for him. Obviously, he will learn from this. He's going to become a better captain. He is definitely there for the long run. He's someone who backs his ability and just tries to push one extra level higher. He sets goal, achieves it, and then next. And that's the sort of role model you need for your youngsters in the team. So I have no doubt that Babar Azam is yet to achieve a lot of greatness in his career. Of course, he's only 27 yet. Let's shift our focus a bit to Australia, Hassan Bhai. Now, one thing that I don't think a lot of analysts are talking about, before I mention any players, I think there was one major turning point in this game. It was that penultimate over bowled by Pat Cummins. 3 runs conceded, 1 wicket. That is the difference between the two teams, I think, because Pakistan would have gotten to 190 if not for that over.
Absolutely. And we all felt, that Cummins hadn't had really the best time. So at that point, going into the game, some people were questioning if even he was needed to play. He stayed back in Australia for the birth of his child. Again, they backed their vice captain. Crunch situation, all format player. he came up tops. And yes, that over did hurt us, Behram, because another 15 overs, Shaheen bowling with 36 needed off 18 balls, completely different story to Shaheen bowling with 21. Again, changes the story for Haris, changes the story for Hassan. So huge over, especially when you consider Pakistan had been going at 14 and over in the last 4 or 5 overs in most games. Exceptional over, got a wicket for his team. Just goes to show you champion mentality. And, you can't write these guys off. They have a grit. They have a determination. Everybody said, okay, Australia is finished. They're far from finished. And they are a very good side. They're in with a very good chance to get the only trophy that's missing on their cabinet. Obviously, I'm going to be bitter and I say I hope they don't get it. But they came out and they backed themselves. They backed their plans. And, you're right. In the scheme of things, that over made a huge difference because 190, 195, Pakistan go into things with a very different level of confidence and with a very different momentum. So that over was a game changer. Absolutely.
And of course, yeah, it's that never say die attitude that Australia have infused. It's their mentality and they're tough as nails. And I think it would be unfair if we don't talk about the 2 match winners in this video. Marcus Stoinis, 40 runs unbeaten of 31 deliveries. And then Matthew Wade, 41 unbeaten of only 17 deliveries. And like we said earlier, you have to give credit where credit is due. This was a phenomenal effort. It was absolutely outstanding. And Hassan bhai, it takes a lot of guts to go down on one knee against one of the best fast bowlers in this world, Shaheen Afridi, and lap him for 6.
Twice in the space of 3 balls. I don't care how many times you get dropped. It takes a lot of guts. This is a guy, I was saying earlier as well, Matthew Wade is a fighter. He was told his test career is over. He was thrown out. He came back. They said he's not a good enough guy to play T20 unless he's opening, reinvented himself as a lower order batter. Just won you a semi-final. He's a cancer survivor. He's an exceptionally tough guy. 41 of 17 balls. And Stoinis quietly going about. We think, okay, we've got Warner out. We've got them on the ropes. Again, his 6 off Rauf, his 6 off Hassan. All of these in the bigger scheme of things made the difference. Why? Because these guys had the confidence to back themselves. We kept talking about the 5th bowler. Will it be Stoinis? Will it be Maxwell? You get Maxwell and Warner out in 1 over and still go on to lose the game, you're taking on a very exceptional side if they have match winners batting that low. And Behram put their total together. Those 2 between them have made 80-something. That's almost half of the runs that Australia needed. So just goes to show you what strength and depth they have. And I think it just comes down to all of these guys having that mentality. They're warriors, they're winners, they refuse to quit. And a Trans-Tasman final, we all wanted it to be an Asian final or maybe a Pakistan-England final, but they're both there on merit. Those teams deserve to be there. Absolutely.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, this pair, they scored 81 runs of 38 deliveries and took their team home. So it was a champion performance and we have to give them credit. And Matthew Wade, like you mentioned, he's just such a tough nut to crack. I'm reminded of that spell of Neil Wagner against Matthew Wade in a test match in which he just kept taking blows and he kept staring back at Wagner and Wagner was confused. What am I supposed to do now? So he definitely demonstrated that tough mentality today. Another player, Australian cricketer, wily leg spinner. I think he's extremely underrated, absolutely not talked about enough, and that is Adam Zampa. He is having the tournament of his life. He's showing the world just how good he is and leading this Australian attack as the lone spinner. I'm not counting Maxwell right now because he's a part-timer. I think he's really put on a clinic. It's been an exhibition of spin bowling. He's been fantastic, gives a lot of flight, is a very brave bowler. And once again, phenomenal performance today. 1 wicket for 22 runs in 4 overs. And I think Zampa could be that trump card which could potentially win Australia the World Cup.
Absolutely. Look at his performances. 1 for 22 against a good side like Pakistan that plays spin so well. He's going under 6 and over in a World Cup semi-final in conditions that people believe Pakistan are favourites in. And that's exceptional. And throughout the tournament, he's been exceptional. Like you said, he's been brave. He's backed himself. He's believed in himself. People used to make fun of him. Look, Australia's leg spin legacy, when you look at it, their pedigree is unmatched. Every young leg spinner is the next Shane Warne. Zampa's gone out there. He's just being his own guy. And he's having a tremendous amount of success. And I think he can be really happy, not just with this performance today, which was world-class. He can be really happy with his entire tournament. He could well end up being the top wicket taker in this tournament. And honestly, it would be well-deserved.
He would have been had Hasaranga not played extra games, right? Because I think that was a bit unfair in this World Cup, how some team stats, they're elevated just because they got to play more games. But I definitely think Adam Zampa has proven his credentials. And even I always thought he was good, but I never thought he was this good. And he's definitely proven me wrong, along with a bunch of other guys. I was also one of the big critics of Asif Ali. But then again, Hassan Bhai, it's always performance based. It's not about abusing players and getting personal, because I think I look at Twitter and it's honestly really, really heartbreaking to see all of that stuff. And I know you're a big advocate of this as well. So any message to all of our fans or viewers who resort to that sort of stuff?
Please don't do it. It's really sad. And I think it reflects badly, firstly, on you as a person. It reflects badly on your country. How can you get abusive about someone's personal life? Like, for example, if Asif Ali hits a six, he's not your best friend. And if he gets out, he's not a villain. He's someone trying to do his job. And we've all been critical of Asif. Look, every single one of us at times, because some of us understood what he was going through. In the background, maybe it wasn't fair to play him, but he was backed by the people that believed in him. Rehan believed in him. Hassan Chima believed in him. They gave him that support. Dean Jones believed in him. And it came good for Pakistan. I'm happy they believed in him. But look, if he has a run of 8 games tomorrow and scores 9 runs and keeps getting out to the same dismissal, by all means, criticize his playing. Don't talk about his family. Don't resort to being abusive. I mean, I don't understand why you would take the time out as a human being from your day to go onto social media to abuse another human being who's trying to do their job. I just think it reflects really badly. I would hope your family, someone shows this stuff to your family and they look at you and say, what are you doing? Is this the kind of, I mean, imagine me running into you somewhere and just, having a go at you for no rhyme or reason. How would I do that in public? But I think it's okay to do it over social media. We shouldn't be negative. I think we should be, like you rightly said, Behram, be critical of the performance. Do not be critical of the person. And I would like to tell everybody, especially our younger viewers, especially our younger brothers and sisters who see this, please don't look at these people. Try and be positive, try and be helpful. And look, if it's a very famous saying in sport, if you can't support us when we lose, don't support us when we win. So if your team has a bad day, is that just fine to start abusing them? And then Asif Ali hits 4 sixes and suddenly you change your display picture and say, I always loved Asif Ali. Don't be that person. Be the better person, be the bigger person, and always try and be objective. If we can be objective, and sometimes as Pakistani fans, it's very tough to be objective because we're very emotional, but we should try and remember these are people. They're human beings. They go through the same feelings we go through, only it's so much worse. They've got 100 million TV cameras pointed on their every move. So yeah, just don't do it. Be the better person.
Absolutely. You've literally echoed my sentiments, and I would concur with that word for word, and I would advocate for that. And just on that note, anyone who's watching this, don't be abusive towards Hassan Ali. Back him. This is the time when Hassan Ali needs you. He's been a champion performer for Pakistan in the past. Even if you look at this calendar year, ever since his comeback after that century in the Qureshi Trophy, he's been great for Pakistan. He's won you test matches. Yes, he dropped a catch in the West Indies test as well. That will haunt him today. And no one is denying the fact that catches win you matches, and that catch cost Pakistan the game. But that does not mean you go all out attacking Hassan Ali on social media. So please back your team, be proud of them, celebrate them. Hassan bhai, I can simply not end this video without talking about David Warner. We talked about Zampa, Stoinis, Wade, but David Warner is that one danger man, X-factor player who can win Australia any game on his own. Today, even 49 of 30. He set the tone from the start. A lot of teams haven't gotten a lot of runs in the power play, but Australia were 90 odd after 10 overs. I think that was one of the big game-changing moments. That Warner innings really made it hard for Pakistan to claw their way back in the game, even though they did a phenomenal job trying to do so. So do you think Warner, if he fires versus New Zealand, this final is pretty much decided?
Absolutely. The guy scares me. He absolutely scares me. He hates Pakistan. David, if you're watching this, I have a bone to pick with you, man. You always hit us for runs. He's a live wire in the field. You know, the way he had struggles at the start, and he said, I'm not worried. I'm going to go out onto the cement nets and play my natural game. For a guy to consistently do that, the high-octane game that he has, scored test triple hundreds, double hundreds, to go through what he went through with Sandpaper Gate and come back in some ways worryingly even stronger. It's just a testament to what an absolute champion this guy is. And honestly, when he plays Pakistan, my only dream is that he gets out in the first over, because as long as he's there, he's giving his team a chance. And yeah, if he fires, like you rightly said, they lost their captain to the first ball that he faced. Still ended up with 49 runs in the power play. still ended up with 90 runs after 10 overs. That's all because of this guy. And he walked when he wasn't out. Imagine if he hadn't. We might have seen those sixes a lot earlier and lost that game. Phenomenal player. Absolutely. He's like a bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's a bulldog on adrenaline pills who just doesn't give up. And he can take on the best of them. If it's a true batting wicket against New Zealand and he fires, yeah, it's as good as over because he's a difference maker. Like you said, he has that X factor. It's almost like he's a little bit of a mixture of Chris Gayle and Virender Sehwag, which is very, very scary as the opposition to see this guy. And honestly, wasn't even one of his best knocks today, and yet he still ended up making a huge difference. So just imagine when he's on top form, just how good he's going to be.
Absolutely. I mean, they do say, right, that form is temporary, but class is permanent. And David Warner epitomizes that. He has been Pakistan's tormentor-in-chief in the past. One can recall the 50-over World Cup where he scored a century when he was in a really tough patch of form. And then also that triple hundred that he scored in that test match. And I'm sure there are a lot of other innings as well that I just can't remember on the top of my head.
Just don't give him a visa for March, please. Just don't give him a visa.
And also given the fact that he was under the pump really coming into this T20 World Cup, a torrid run of form in the IPL, was dropped by the Sunrisers Hyderabad. We don't even know if he's going to play for them again or not. But I just think it's a testament to his character, his nerves, and he just backs his ability. He's a touch player and he will perform for Australia every now and again. You can never write off David Warner, that is for sure. Anyway, on a final note, Hassan bhai, just a quick prediction. We've got a Trans-Tasman final at our hands. And heart says New Zealand. They're such a lovable team. Love Kane Williamson. Love the way they play the spirit in which they play their cricket. But my mind says Australia. I guess it's my PTSD of growing up in the early 2000s that my mind will always say Australia. So what do you reckon?
I would echo that. I think heart wants New Zealand to win just so we can say that we beat the champions. Head says this Australian side is not going to roll over. I think conditions will not matter to them. They seem to somehow have the edge over New Zealand. Maybe it's that rivalry. Maybe it's that big brother situation. And especially, I think if the toss or something like that goes Australia's way, I think they just have that many more match winners on the day. Or maybe the badwa of 225 million plus people catches up with them. But I think they start as the favorites. I would agree with you. I think they start as the favorites. I would back them to win too. I think they can do it. And that run of not having won only this tournament and having won everything else.
Yep, they can finally add that last trophy to that coveted trophy cabinet. And only Pakistan, India and West Indies have all four of those honors. Test number one, 50-over World Cup, T20 World Cup and Champions Trophy. Australia could technically become the fourth team to do that. Anyway, Hassan bhai, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for taking out the time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking cricket with you. And I'm so glad you agreed to come on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, I watch your show regularly. I'm so happy that there's someone making good, positive, thoughtful, objective content about Pakistan cricket. I really wish that when some of our journalists and analysts would learn from you guys about how it's important to criticize the team, but not really use that as an excuse to, go in completely different directions. And I know, how much work and time you put into this. It's been a real pleasure to be on. And I look forward to watching many more of your shows, inshallah.
Thank you so much. And I hope we get to record sometime in the future again. And maybe when I come to Pakistan, we can even meet or something.
It'll be my pleasure.
That's a wrap for volume 78, folks. As always, if you enjoyed this volume, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon in order to be notified about all of my latest videos. I will catch you after the final. Do let me know in the comment section below who you think will win this T20 World Cup. We will, of course, have a new champion. Neither of New Zealand or Australia have won this before. But that's all for now. Qazi off the mic.
Have a look at that. Smiles up. Oh, it's nearly taken someone out in the stands. That was a flat six right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members. And it went like a